Hey everybody, welcome back. I want to take you through the general interface, now that we've created a project, of how to orient yourself inside of the Unreal Engine menus and panels. By default, we have the top menus, which have a lot of the features you'd expect, file, save, load, editing, go into project settings, things like that. And then some of these other things like platform, which are going to allow us to build our project out towards a executable that can be shipped around. As we have this content, be mindful that a lot of these options that you see in front of you are going to change based off of what area you're in inside of Unreal. Unreal is an animation tool, a world building tool, a lighting tool, a special effects tool, a programming tool, and each one of those interfaces is going to have a different layout. So when I look at this, this whole view here is just part of one asset. This is a level asset. It's one of the most common assets you're going to have open because it is a required asset to be able to do anything else inside of the world. So the level asset that we have here has a layout where we can save the current level. We can change what mode we're editing in. Are we selecting objects, working with landscape, foliage, fracture tool, animation, right? There's a collection of things here we'll get into in future videos. The ability to place objects into the world. So if I wanted to place, for example, a cube, I could click and drag the cube into the world here. It's down there, I promise, very tiny. We have the ability to use the blueprint creation menu. So we can create blueprints from scratch. We can select objects in the world and create a blueprint from those selections. We can open the level blueprint, which is a scripting object attached to this level specifically. We have the ability to generate sequences. Level sequences are collections of timelines with tracks and keyframes that allow you to move objects along a particular route at a particular set time. So you can synchronize things like doors opening with sounds playing, or you can set up cinematic scenes where cameras are moving on dollies, showing particular assets as actors walk by and play particular animations. We have the ability to play test our environment. So this is the play level in editor, the Pi launcher. When I press that green button, it puts me in here and I can move around. Once I click into it, I'm using WASD to move around with Q and E. And you see that red button up there. I can press escape and that'll cancel. That gets us back out. So we're down here somewhere on the ground now, and my cube is over there. So I'm going to bring my cube over here in just a second, but we'll show you how you can maneuver around and adjust elements inside of this viewport. Uh, with the top bar of the level asset described what you can do there, I want you to see this next panel is the biggest panel. If I click this little blue arrow here, it'll expand it out. This is called the viewport. So you can have multiple viewports that show different things or the same thing from different angles. When I hide that tab, that just gets me a little bit more editing space. I like things to be streamlined. When you have that open, you'll see that this window shows you the content that's in the world. I can navigate through this by left clicking on objects. I can control click to add to my current selection or to remove from my current selection. I can right click and drag to pivot my camera from its current location. And while I have that down, I can use W, S, A, and D to move forward, backward, left, and right in orientation of the camera. So moving down, moving backwards, but I can also use Q to go down and E to go up. In addition to that, I have the ability to left click and drag, which will allow me to move forward and backward as I move the mouse forward and backward, and then to look left and right, more like a camera truck. And then if I hold down left and right, it'll lock my camera to a plane that is vertical to the ground in the orientation that I'm facing. I can get that same effect by holding down middle mouse button and doing the same thing. While I'm moving around, if I want to jump to a particular object, I can press the F key, and that'll make the object bounds of what my current selection is within the set of the screen. Let's see if I go up a little bit here. Let's get back to my cube, and I press F. It'll jump me down to the cube. Inside of this viewport, I have the ability to select, translate, rotate, and scale the objects inside of the world. The X is red, the Y is green, and the Z is blue. You'll notice the world orientation shown here, and then we also have the object orientation. So once I get past this object, if I wanted to take this thing and, let's say, move it, I can switch to the translation tool by pressing W, or if I have any of the translation options, I can press spacebar to cycle through until I get to the one I want, and then I can just click and drag on one of those arrows to move the object. You'll notice that this is being reflected over here. We have two other panels, the outliner panel and the details panel. The outliner panel is showing a list view of the content that's inside of the world. This is an assembly view where things are in relationship to each other, and this is just listing all the other objects. I can shift, click, and select multiple objects, I can still do control click to add and remove objects from my list. And if I select something here, it selects it in the other one as well. So if I want to take this object and I want to move it, I can see that this object is really far away, and I can move it closer towards my player start by pressing this little arrow. Anytime I move an object or make a modification to any of its properties, you'll see this arrow to the right that'll let you set that back to its default. So I'm going to press that, and then I'm going to press F and jump over to it, and now that is right next to my player start. I'm going to put it in front of the player and verify that when I start, I'm looking at the cube. There we go. So now that I have that set up, I want to look at some other things I can do with the asset. If I wanted to, with this thing, I can move it along a world coordinate system, X, Y, Z, and I can rotate it along my X-axis here, along the Y-axis, along the Z-axis. You notice it's getting a little wonky. If I wanted to move the object, it goes on the world axis still, unless I click this button here, and now it'll move to the axis that are offset from wherever the actor was originally placed inside of the world. So this is the local coordinate system versus the world coordinate space. I can switch those by pressing Control tilde, and you'll see that the widget will flip back and forth between those, and this icon will switch back and forth. When I have an object selected, I can use the Alt key to click and drag, and I can create a copy of that. I can also press Control D, and it'll duplicate that object. Or, of course, I can press Control C and Control V, and it'll duplicate that object. Or I can come up to Edit, and I can copy, paste, or duplicate, and each one of those has their controls set next to it. So making objects in the world is super easy. Once you have the object added from your Place Actors panel, you can get it here. If you want to add your own content, of course, clicking and dragging from the content drawer into the scene will be just as easy. And if I select multiple objects, I can manipulate the details of those objects simultaneously. These ones have multiple values for X and Y, but if I wanted to, I could set the Z value higher for those, or I can just reset them all back to 0, reset their orientation, and now I have 2 cubes exactly in the same spot. And I want to move one over to the left and one over to the right. I can come over to my grid snapping, change these the size of snapping that I'll use. I'll select one cube, go 100 this way, select another cube, go 100 that way. Now I know they're exactly 100 units apart. The idea that we're able to snap objects is pretty key for level design and world construction. It allows precision, but you don't need to use it. If you want to gradually or manually position an object, you can always turn snapping off. If you want to change the size of the snapping, just to snap at a smaller interval, you can adjust the value here. These numbers are customizable inside of the editor settings. You can make small or larger pieces if you want things to snap at 250 or 42 units. You could set that up. Also, you can use the bracket keys to adjust your snapping options, which will adjust the grid size. And once you adjust the grid size, you should note that you're moving by the grid unit, not onto a grid unit. You'd have to place the object onto the grid. There's options for doing things, snap origin to grid. It'll put it to the nearest grid unit depending on what grid options you have available. So just knowing how to maneuver an object inside of the space, it's pretty helpful to build out the vision that you have. You also have angle snapping. It works very much in the same way. If I switch to my rotation tool, it's very smooth without the snapping. And if I turn snapping on, it'll snap in increments of whatever I have that set to. And I can drop down and select these as well, or I can use shift brackets to adjust those values if I only want to snap in like 45-degree angles. And then scale works very much the same. So understanding how to manipulate objects, that's all up there. We have some controls for viewing the perspective, top, bottom, left, and right. There's a shortcut for manipulating these. You can use the Control plus middle mouse click and drag to get around in different directions. Up for top, left for left, right for right, down for down. And then I can go to the diagonal to get back to perspective. And then as I go further on, the camera speed is set here. View modes, if I wanted to view wireframes of the content I'm working on. If I wanted to show or hide different types of objects. If I didn't want landscape, I can get rid of landscape. If I wanted to hide static meshes, I can get rid of those. And there's different keys for different types of objects. We potentially wanted to have like a game view. I could press G and it'll show me what it'll look like in game. It'll get rid of all the widgets and extra bits. Press G to come back. If I want to hide an individual object, I can press H, select any object, and it'll hide it from view. It doesn't remove it from the game, right? They're still there when I go to playtest, but it does hide them, so I can do Control H and that'll bring them back. And then we have the option for real time. If your computer is struggling to navigate smoothly through your viewport, then you might turn off real time. That'll disable things like these clouds are being generated and managed in real time. If I turn off real time, then you'll see that the clouds should be fixed. Sorry, if I turn real time off, the clouds should be fixed. And then when I turn real time back on, they'll jump. So as you consider real time for different purposes, if your computer needs extra work or extra power, then turning that off may give it what you need. You have settings that are available for viewport preferences. These are inside of the editor preferences. There's a number of ways that you can modify this to behave in the way that you expect or the way that you need it to for your project. And then we also have the ability to do multiple viewports if that's something you're used to doing quad viewport editing. You can set up different layouts as well. If you're messing with the interface and you find there's a problem that you can no longer use it in the way that you wanted to, you can always come up to Window, Load, Layout, and choose the default layout, and then that'll work the way you want. Or you can set it up the way you like, and you can save a loadout and then mess with it, just allowing that to reflect your workflow, your preference. That's local. That's not going to be represented to anyone else who's working on the project, unless they're at your station. Inside of the details panel, we have the ability to rename an object. We can rename it here, or we can rename it here by going Edit, Rename, or for pretty much any asset inside of Unreal, you can press F2 and rename the asset. That'll help you to organize these things. By default, things are organized alphabetically inside of this list, but you can also add folders. You can rename things. We have the ability to add one object to another. So this is cube 4, this is cube 3. If I wanted cube 4 to move as cube 5 moves, I can click and drag it onto cube 5. Cube 4 is now a child of the cube 5 parent. So selecting cube 5, if I rotate it, cube 4 will rotate around cube 5, while cube 4 retains its own manipulation. We have another way of organizing objects together. We can select multiple objects. I can control click them, and I can press Control G or come right click group, and that'll group the objects together. So now if I were to move them, they move together just by selecting one of them. And you'll notice that there is a group actor that is added inside of Unreal's outliner. This tells us that it controls those objects. The group actor cannot, unfortunately, be renamed, so it can be a little cumbersome. This is more of a short-term solution than is a long-term solution. If I do a Shift G, it'll ungroup the objects. If I have the objects grouped and I want to just manipulate one thing, I can come down to that groups panel and say unlock. It'll show basically the group is not used in the way that you'd expect it to be used, right? So I would have to select the group actor, because if I select any of the individual objects, they'll be unlocked from the group. And then I can come back and then go to groups and lock again. And I'm back to being able to move everything together. So just a few ways of being able to control objects inside of the outliner. And then in your details panel, as I mentioned before, we'll notice that the panel has a ability to click and drag. You can manually enter, and we can do formulas. So 400 plus 400, 800. So be mindful of the options you have here for customizing the details. We have the ability to add content to the project through the content drawer. So adding content through any type of asset that's available inside of the editor, as well as importing content from outside, like FBXs, image files, PSDs, animations. That can all be brought in here and can be managed and organized. We can create folders and create an architecture that will allow us to do a little bit of software configuration management. There are naming conventions for Unreal. We'll get into that a little bit more in future videos, but this should get you an idea of what it looks like to navigate, position objects, manipulate them, modify settings inside of Unreal. So hopefully this gets you a starting point to help you keep building.